On the go? Download the free andrewhogue.com iPhone and Android app, so we'll never be apart. Well, it has been quite a number of years since I had a chance to speak with this great man, but I do welcome him back and look forward to talking all about what's happening in the world of Erik Rutan, of course, right here on andrewhogue.com, still Australia's only 24/7 metal radio station. This man has written some of the most ferocious death metal in history, of course, with his works with Morbid, Hate Eternal. Oh, the list goes on, and he's produced a ton of brutality as well. Now, recently, of course, joined as a full-time member for Cannibal Corpse. Erik, welcome to andrewhogue.com.
Wow, that's a hell of an introduction there. Thanks for having me.
Well, like I said, your history speaks volumes. There's so much to talk about, so we'll do what we can to get through as much as we can. But let's just, I guess, go from the top of the moment, of course, being now a full-time member of Cannibal Corpse. Now, how much of the new record, Violence Unimagined, was written before you end up becoming a full-time member, replacing Pat O'Brien?
A lot of it was written, actually. It was early last year that we decided for me to join, and then a couple months later we were recording. So as soon as we discussed me joining, I got to writing songs like immediately. And of course, learning songs to track on the record, on top of doing pre-production with the guys and preparing as a producer to, record the record. So a lot of the songs were written already. So that kind of was helpful in the sense of when I was writing songs, like knowing what was there already, like thinking, okay, man, I don't usually put a lot of thought into the writing as much as it's just pure feel. Usually I'm just playing guitar. Like for these songs, man, I just sat there. I was playing guitar all day and night, man, working on songs and coming up with ideas. And I just completely submerged in the Cannibal Corpse land for this record. But some of the songs were written. Some of the songs were being written simultaneously as I was writing, and we were all writing together and working together. But it happened very naturally. And, for me, I mean, I have all the Cannibal Corpse albums. I've known the guys since the beginning. And so, we've known each other since, 1990 or something. And so, I've produced 5 albums. I've had to learn a lot of songs, by filling in, of course, in 2019. And so kind of put all that knowledge and experience and love for the band, of course, into writing some Cannibal Corpse songs, and really proud with our efforts.
I'd have to say it would definitely sound like a very easy fit because, as you mentioned, you have, of course, produced plenty of the band's records, and to me, some of their great work. And what I love about Cannibal Corpse is the fact that, technically they are the slayer of death metal. You know exactly what you're going to get, and why would you want anything else different at all? And every record is just always crushing. Now, like I said, we haven't got much time, and I want to sort of cover as much as I can with your sort of enormous history. Now, I've read that you'll still continue with Hate Eternal as well as Cannibal Corpse and producing. So, how do you manage to juggle all these things?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, that's kind of been the story of my whole career. Is like I've always done multiple things because I'm a pretty ambitious person, and I derive so much enjoyment and satisfaction from doing multitude of things. So it's about a balance, of doing things. Us not touring this year certainly has allowed me to work on a lot of things that I normally wouldn't because we'd be touring more. To me, obviously joining Cannibal Corpse, I make Cannibal Corpse my priority and focus on that. But we have a lot of times where we're not touring or working on stuff, and that's when I'll produce. Obviously, I have to produce less records and be real choosy in whatever records I work on, and then do Hate Eternal when I can. And one good thing about me is I'm very prolific. I love to write and I love to play guitar, and So that's a lot what I've been doing recently is, writing some Hate Eternal music, writing future Cannibal Corpse music, working at the studio, taking advantage of, the negativity of not being able to tour and turning that into a positivity by being creative and working on things at home that I normally don't have the time to do.
Well, that's what certainly affected the world of what we're all sort of dealing with right now. Some can go the opposite end, the negative, and just become victims of circumstance, or others can turn around and use it to an advantage. And that's, like I said, why we're seeing a lot of bands working on music, some bands having, writer's block or whatever. I mean, everyone's different when it comes to dealing with adversity. And like I said, you're never short on projects or even things to juggle. But I guess the question is, as you said, you're very driven and motivated. But what really keeps you in that state when it comes to writing such vicious death metal? I remember I asked you this question, boy, maybe 10 years ago, and you still answered it with a smile. So I'm looking forward to hearing possibly the same answer again.
Well, it's probably the same answer I gave 10 years ago, as far as like my whole life has been challenging and faced with adversity. And there's things that I've endured in my life that really inspired me to play music in the first place. Is like, for me, playing guitar. When I started playing guitar 35 years ago, I was like 14 or 15. And when I first started playing guitar, it was everything I had, I put into that. Every negative emotion and experience that I had playing guitar was what kind of got me out of that and gave me something positive to put that negative energy into. And because of that, and because of the challenges in my life and so much adversity that I've faced growing up, and things that I endured, I've put all that into my music. And that's just kind of been the vessel for me to express myself and deal with the things that I've experienced in my life. These are things that I don't think will ever go away. And I guess that's why I've always been continuously inspired. I've had some great highs and some great lows in my life and my career. But I kind of feel like the great highs have bounced back from great lows. And I've just always focused on the future, and very driven and motivated. And music is like such a huge part of my life. It always has been since my earliest memories of life. Music has just been a saving grace for me. And I just feel so fortunate, and I'm so grateful to be able to sit here and talk to you and think about, like, wow, I've been recording albums for 30 years. I've been touring for 30 years of my life. And I'm 49 years old. I'm gonna be 50 in a couple months. And it's hard not to reflect, me joining Cannibal Corpse now, like, I'm still even processing that. Like, wow, I can't believe I'm in Cannibal Corpse, like it just blows my mind to think that, that I'm in Cannibal. It's just still pretty surreal. And I don't take any of it for granted. I don't take life for granted. I don't take people for granted. And I certainly don't take the opportunities that I've had for granted either. And so I feel very fortunate and very grateful to be in this position. And I always look at it as like, seize the moment, take the opportunity by the horns, and rise to the occasion. And, when things get tough, like COVID's been, things get tough in my life, that's when I really flourish, and when I rise to the occasion, rise to the top, because I'm always up for a challenge, and I'm always ready to take it on full steam.
Well, it just shows you have, resilience, and that's something that all of us have in us, but we just don't tend to acknowledge that fact that we bounce back from certain things and situations. But most people, I guess, to quote the brilliant, which is going to lead me into what we're about to talk about, the lyrics of Morbid Angel's "Dominate, be a victor or be a victim." And like I said, I've said this numerous times on my station that Morbid Angel is still my favorite death metal band of all time, with the amount of great music they've written. And of course, you participated on a number of their recordings, including the brilliant Domination album from 1995, and of course saw you tour Australia on that tour as well. So, what are some of your memories from being in that group, and of course, you know, writing some to me timeless death metal?
Well, man, I can tell you that like some of those memories that I have, from obviously from being in Morbid Angel, um, some incredible memories. I mean, I got to play on 3 records. I toured for 4, and certainly Domination being the first record I played on. I toured for Covenant, and then to be able to write and play on Domination, I was 23 years old, and um, leading up to that, I'd done Ripping Corpse for 5 years. We did our first record in 1991. We toured with Morbid Angel for Altars of Madness and Blessed Are the Sick. And then I ended up touring, playing with Morbid Angel for Covenant, ultimately leading to me joining, Domination. I mean, it was such a huge time for death metal and for Morbid Angel, coming off of Covenant, recording a major label record, and doing the album at Morris Sound for like 2.5 months back at the end of '94. I think it was November, December '94, working with David and Trey and Pete. Those are amazing memories. And then me working with, Trey, Steve, and Pete years later, and Jared filling in as well. I mean, I have some amazing memories of Morbid Angel. Certainly such a huge part of my life and a huge part of my career. When I think about my whole career, Ripping Corpse, Morbid Angel, Hate Eternal, Cannibal Corpse. I mean, those 4 bands are so essential to my whole life and my career, and I'm really grateful for every memory that I have.
Like I said, you have written some of the best, riffs as well, and we have talked a bit about, your drive and motivation. But let's talk a bit about the sort of newer school of extreme music today. And I guess, like I said, you've got such a long career, and we look today at the wonders of technology in the studios that everyone has at their disposal. Because I have mentioned this to you before, like, just because, when I've listened to a lot of your output and your music, the ferocity is just so real. And I find today just some of the newer death metal, as much as some of the playing is just phenomenal and ridiculous, it's aggressive music, but I don't know if the aggression is coming from a pure place. Maybe that's just my perception of the whole thing. Like, I find when I check out, and I watched earlier death metal bands, there was a real feeling of, delivery and meaning. I don't know. What's your thoughts on that rant?
Well, the one thing I would say about myself and the music I write is that it's palpable. It's pure. It's honest. It's real. It's an extension of who I am. Like, if I go back and think of all the music that I've written over the 30 plus years at this point, it represents something. It's not just like a cool riff or oh, look, check this out, it's notey, or they all have memories and moments. They capture a moment in my life and a moment in time that is pure. And so for me, music was not something like I chose to do, where I felt like music was something that I needed to do in order to survive and to live my life. I've used guitar. I mean, you can see the way that I play music. The way I even play guitar is very aggressive. I've just always approached it that way, and it's natural. And I kind of feel like, certainly speak for myself, honesty in what I do is very clear. I'm very passionate about what I do, and I've never had an issue with being honest with people or showing the true side. I kind of wear who I am on my sleeves, and certainly my music is a big representation of who I am. And I think a lot of the people that I work with and a lot of people I've played music with have had a very similar approach. So, everybody, I think there's no right or wrong way in music, how we record it, what drives us or impassions us to play music. I don't think there's a right or wrong way, but what we connect to and who we connect to and how we connect, it's all relative and different for everybody. But I certainly have met so many great people over the years, where they might pick a lyric or a song that I've written and kind of adapt that to their own lives. And I've had some really in-depth discussions with many people over the years about the meanings, or about, how this inspired them to do this, or how, my words have helped them through a dark time. And I thought, man, that's what it's about. That's incredible when music can transcend, um, state, countries, continents, religions, race, creed, any, um, music, it transcends everywhere. And that's where I've been so fortunate to be able to, play 1 minute in New York City, and then play in Dubai, or play in Australia, or, play in Japan or Malaysia, or, or South America, Mexico. Yeah, I've played so many amazing countries and met so many incredible people. And the music is the one thing that kind of unites us all together. It's like the universal language, really, music. And I think one thing I say about what I do is it's very pure, because it comes from a very deep and dark place. And so I've always expressed myself and never held back in anything I do, and always challenged myself to be better and to give everything I have to everything I do. And I think people see that, and they embrace it.
Yeah, well, that's what I was getting at about the delivery. And even live, there's some great newer death metal bands that I play on the station, and I really enjoy. And then, you go and see them live, and you're like, oh, okay. Studio, it sounds killer and it's cool, but I always feel like there's something lacking in the sense of the delivery or the power. And some of these bands I've gone and watched, make fun of their shit when they're playing. I kind of think, is this supposed to be a joke now? Is metal getting taken the piss out of? Whereas,
right, the freedoms we're allowed to embrace what we embrace and not embrace what we don't. But I certainly know, because of my age, being 49 years old, when I started tracking demos, as a teenager, man, it was all to analog. So, you better be on top of your game to record records. I mean, I recorded so many albums to analog tape. And so it kind of definitely refined my playing, in a sense of where now, technology allows a lot of things that weren't able to be done back in the day. But I always look at this. I work with Pro Tools, but I also have like an analog heart. And so that's what I say, or analog soul, So for me, I'm always trying to get the best performances out of people. I mean, I work guys hard in the studio, and anybody that's worked with me would tell you the same thing. Like, I'll push you to get the best out of you until I believe that I can't get any more. And so I've always adapted that philosophy. And, just because we have, just because we have all these means to do all these things doesn't mean you have to use it all the time either. It's like, I don't know. I feel like technology is a great thing, and technology can also be a detriment. And so why do I listen to Metallica, Master of Puppets, or Slayer, Rain and Blood, or Hell Awaits, or something, and still 40 years later, 35 years later, I think, oh my God, this still sounds freaking amazing. And it sounds like a bunch of guys in a room jamming, making some of the most legendary records ever. Or even go back further, right? Van Halen, Ozzy, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, there's so many old school records that I still embrace and love the production, love the vibe of the records. And that's something I try to embrace in a modern way, I guess, is like that kind of vibe and character of older records in a more modern kind of approach.
Well, that's what I was getting at. I mean, the technology, like I said, is great, but you want to hear the feeling. You want to feel like they're on edge, and there is that desperation there of realness. And yeah, like I said, sometimes that can be lacking due to the fact that we have, when people get comfortable, they don't push that hard because there's a safety in that. And like you said, when you go back and listen to some of those records you mentioned, there is that feeling that you just think, wow, and I hope there's going to be a little bit of a backswing on that with newer sort of bands, just because
it is. In some way, I think it is actually. And, is that like, for me, I always looked at technology as like use, don't abuse.
Yeah.
It's because I mean technology is of course fantastic. I mean you know I'm talking to you on Skype in Australia, right? Like, okay, technology's killer. Like I have Pro Tools on every computer I own. I go on tour, I have Pro Tools on my laptop. I got I got Pro Tools in my home office. I got Pro Tools in the studio. I can record, I can play. I have plugins and amp simulations on my phone, on my laptop. Technology is fantastic, but you have to balance. To me, I'm always trying to balance. I guess technology and character, precision and vibe. And right in there, to me, a lot of my whole life and how I approach music is all based on integrity. And so integrity wields a lot for me. And I guess certainly the way I approach records or the way I approach anything is I've never had things easy, and I've never taken the easy way out on anything, man. I mean, to me, sometimes you have to work your tail off to get to where you want to be. And I've certainly, man, my career, I mean, I've been playing guitar for 35 years and I've worked my tail off to get here. And there's a lot of hard work and a lot of course, luck and involved as well. But, I've definitely learned that, especially in the modern times in which we live in, not just in music, but in life in general, it's really applying yourself. How do you apply yourself, and some people ask me like, man, you've been doing this so long, but every time I talk to you, you sound so motivated and inspired. And I say, yeah, nothing's changed on that. If anything, it's like the more and more I've done, the more and more I just want to do, because I'm just ambitious and I know how far I've come in my life and my career, and to be able to be here doing what I'm doing. I mean, playing Cannibal Corpse, doing Hate Eternal, having my own studio to produce whatever record I choose. It's 35 years of hard ass work, and I don't take it for granted one bit.
And you said the word choose. It all is a choice with all this stuff, and a lot of people aren't aware of that. Sometimes they think, oh, that's what I have to do, when the fact is it's what you get to do. And again, I commend you for your loyalty to the craft and the world of extreme metal, and also to us, and the amount of amazing music you've given us over the years. So again, I thank you so much for your output, Erik. And what we could do to conclude our chat, I guess, is to do a bit of a reflection. We'll take one song off the new Cannibal Corpse, Violence Unimagined, if you want to choose one of your favorite tracks off that, and then I guess two songs from some previous or fuck it, let's go three of previous bands you've done, stuff from Morbid Angel or Hate Eternal or Alas or Ripping Corpse. We'll do a little bit of a retrospective of the Erik Rutan archive. So your choice, buddy.
Wow. Okay. Well, I guess. Well, we can start. Let's start from the beginning, right? Ripping Corpse, a song that I helped write was called The Hate Eternal. And that was for the demo in '92 after the Ripping Corpse album. And that song, the title of that song, is what ultimately led to me naming my own band Hate Eternal. So that's a little tidbit that I don't know everybody knows or not.
You know
but
that now.
That was one of the songs that, one of many songs I wrote for Ripping Corpse. It kind of was the early beginnings of kind of my diverse style of writing, of like, I've always written two guitar part stuff and harmonization and counterpoint and things like that. And I figure I'd pick a song from every band that I've been a part of, death metal band, of course. And so I'll lead to Morbid Angel. I think, like, when I think of the songs I've written for Morbid Angel, man, I mean, there's so, the songs stick out to me in a way, but the one song that sticks out to me that was a really like a unique tune, and still to this day is really different, is Hate Work.
Mm.
And that's something that started at Trey's house. Actually, I used to go to Trey's, and sometimes I'd stay for like 2 days straight, and we'd work on music, especially when we were writing Domination. And I would just stay at his house, and he had like a keyboard with some orchestration sounds. And when I wrote Hate Work, initially I thought it would be like an intro, and like Bless Her Sick, and Covenant had intros, and so I thought it'd be an intro. It kind of started with like a timpani, and then a cello, chun 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 chun, like that heavy kind of part. And I just had this random idea of like, what if I made this into a real song and translated to guitar, and then added in like cello and viola and violin, and then like the snare roll, the military snare roll, and the guitars, and then the vocals, and it ended up becoming a unique song. I've never written anything like it before, and never written anything like it after. And Hate Eternal, man, I mean, there's when I've written seven albums, worth of material, plus other stuff as well that hasn't made it to the albums. But I mean, there's so many songs that have captured a lot of stuff for me and meant so much to me throughout the catalog. But certainly I would have to mention, Tombeau is a song that I wrote when my former bass player and friend Jared Anderson passed away. And there's a certain emotion behind that song. It captured something special, and that I devoted to my friend. And certainly Fury Flames was a special record for me in that regard. And something, that'll always be an ode to my former bandmate and friend that's no longer with us. And leading the Cannibal Corpse, well, Condemnation Contagion, I just released a guitar video for it, and that's a song I started writing right as the pandemic, as COVID-19 started to become a pandemic. And kind of simultaneously, I'd been watching like a lot of zombie pandemic movies, like 28 Days Later,
Yeah.
and other movies like I Am Legend and stuff. And it just definitely, they all kind of loosely inspired like what was going on, and everything certainly inspired. It was the last song I wrote for the new Cannibal Corpse record. And when I was writing it, it was just this really heavy, dark song, but I just kind of knew in my gut, I said, man, it ended up, out of the 3 songs I wrote, it's my personal favorite, just because I feel like it, not only it captured a moment in time of like, what the hell is going on here? It was early on with COVID, and there was a lot of unknowns and anxiety. And certainly for me at that point, I was getting ready to record the Cannibal Corpse record. And that song, just something about it, it just hits me deep. It's a really heavy song, and something I felt like, man, this is a totally a Cannibal Corpse vibe and song, with my feel behind it, of course. And yeah, it's, man, the new Cannibal Corpse records, the new Cannibal Corpse record, Violence on Imagine, has 11 fucking great songs from beginning to end. And I'm, I couldn't be more excited about the whole album in its entirety.
Well, we can't wait to spin it for the rest of the masses once it's released very shortly. And again, it's been a pleasure to reconnect with you, Erik, and we'll do what we can to continue supporting your amazing output of Extremities right here on andrewhogue.com. So thank you again.
Andrew, hey, let's not make it 10 years again.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? But thank you so much for having me, and I can't wait for the record to be released, and I really hope someday to be able to come over to your beautiful country and tour again, man. I love playing Australia. Got many friends over there, and I really look forward to getting past this COVID-19 so we can get back to doing what we love to do.
Absolutely. Let's check out some Cannibal Corpse, and of course also a bunch of back catalogue music of the, I guess, the amazing catalogue of the Erik Rutan. Let's check it out right now. Thanks again, buddy.
Thank you. Take care.